How many times during that race did you exclaim in shock and horror?
Oh man, more than I wanted to, that's for sure.
It was an exciting race, I think, in the worst possible way, if I'm being honest.
Well, I think what was really unfortunate was, other than the second one, where we had a very short restart, the first restart, with the crazy crash with Zarco and Bagnaia and everybody, the first part before the red flag happened with Alex's crash was shaping up to be a great race.
Right. Really fun. It was like a championship changing race.
Yeah. Well, and the racing was good. There was good passes. It was close. Like, it was a battle. Pedro, he may be taking the crown as the best defensive rider I've ever watched.
I think Pedro we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, but Pedro has impressed me today.
Yeah.
I've always been impressed with him, but today he really impressed me.
So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's just start with the race. We don't need to do the news here. You guys have already seen the race by now.
If you haven't seen the race, I'm sure you've seen the news.
Yeah.
I talked to some friends today. They're like, crashes really upset me. I'm not even going to watch the race, knowing it has to be one of the most violent crashes I have ever. It's like up there with the crash in Spielberg, with bikes just flinging through the air. I don't think there was a part on Alex Marquez's motorcycle that can be reused.
Maybe the valve stem caps.
Yeah. Like, it was violent.
And not to make total light of it, I'm being a little bit...
no, but like, it was like they were dragging it off the track and you're like, oh my gosh.
It was a phenomenal crash. We're lucky. The report I read, he has a broken vertebrae and a broken collarbone.
And I heard the break in the vertebrae isn't that serious.
Right.
Thank God for airbags.
Yeah. So
right?
Hopefully he's going to be fine. I think he'll recover. Zarco's, his was actually more sort of like terrifying to watch because it was almost disturbing to watch.
It was very disturbing
to watch. Because that's always one of the scariest things, is the idea of a rider getting tangled up and stuck with a bike.
There's a video on Reddit from just a fan of the Zarco crash. And don't go look at it if you're squeamish. It's upsetting to watch.
But it sounds as well like his injuries are not as insane as you might expect. He definitely damaged his knee very badly. With all of the CLs are
right.
We
may not see him again this year because soft tissue.
It takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a long time. Where I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alex Marquez by the end of summer break.
Yeah, I think
because they're going to plate his scapula. They'll be careful with his spine.
Yep. So it'll probably depend on how kind of the races shuffle on the schedule. I haven't looked that far ahead. But that ends up being a big determinant for when they come back, because they'll sort of look at the upcoming schedules and pick their battles almost literally. But yeah, it was shaping up to be such an exciting race that first half. Before then, Pedro got off to a great start. He was blocking super well. I mean, he magically looked like he was 15 feet wide everywhere he went. Yeah. He was so good at protecting the line. But at the end of the day, that KTM just does not have the edge grip like the other bikes do. And you can see
struggling with it, right?
Yeah. So, and then the harshest of results for him, after surviving all the red flags, getting pole position, all of the chaos, and of all people, Ai Ogura takes him out on the last corner. And it was terrible because I watched Ai Ogura coming, and I knew that, I was like, oh, it's Ai Ogura. He'll make the cleanest pass. You won't even know he was there. He blasts in the side of him and knocks him down.
Well, you think about the emotional toll that took on them, right? 3 starts. They all know each other, yep. Right? I'm sure they're not all best buddies, but a lot of them are good friends. Yeah. Right. And to see your buddy get flung through, and then you start over, and then you see your other buddy get tangled up, and then you start over, the anxiety and the stress must have been these guys, we pay them to go to war for us basically every other weekend, right? And you could see how emotional or how stressed they were at the end of it. And that's actually something I kind of want to talk about is I think the character of some people really came to the surface today. And I think with, in mind of like, we asked these kids to go to war for us. I think it's worth talking about for a minute, because I am of the mind, and I want to know what you think about this too, that I'm of the mind that I feel like emotion is one of my biggest detriments. That when I get emotional, I stop thinking clearly. It's when I do things that I regret. So I'm always trying to be Spock-like, in a certain extent, like to just tone it down. You've always been really good at being toned down.
So let's talk about the brain in a minute, because I think that's important. I think what you're getting at, though, is we saw a couple of extremely high stress incidents happen during the GP, and we saw sort of the ends of the spectrum in terms of response. Right. We saw Bagnaia like rush to try to get aid for Zarco after his crash.
Dropped everything and like ran to like make sure Zarco got taken care
of. Whereas oftentimes you'll see the rider, their first instinct is to run to their bike to see is it even possible to get this thing going. But I think he saw his bike, I think in the crash, probably watched Zarco get tangled and tumbled with the bike. He was done racing at that moment.
Right.
And so he was trying to, what can I do to help Zarco? Can I get medics here quicker? Can I help him out of the bike? That was a really positive thing to see. And
high character
level thing in a really negative situation, that was a good thing to see.
Right.
We saw similar things. Pedro Acosta had every right in the world to be absolutely livid and fuming and emotional and throw a tantrum basically after what
more
he went through.
Justified than probably anybody else.
Yeah, he went through hell and back, and then got knocked out of the last corner by a guy who just does not do that. It was just like the world was out to get him that day.
Right. Well, like even looking at the big incident, as soon as it happened, he had his hand up and was trying to get out of the way.
Yep.
And like to know that like I was, a part of someone getting really hurt.
Yeah.
There's going to be like emotions there, right? There's going to be all these chemicals, like our bodies, we are just chemical reactions. That's really all we are, right?
But he when, as soon as the camera got put in his face, he was like, hey, we need to talk about these guys that got hurt. Like the most important thing here today is Alex and Zarco.
Yeah, he's like, we don't even talk about me. Like it doesn't, again, high character. And then on the flip side, and I'm a fan of him, I wear his helmet.
You're such a fan. You have his helmet in.
I have his helmet. Yeah, I wear his helmet, and yet he goes in such emotional state, and he shoves the team lead.
Yeah,
and I just think that's, again, we ask a lot of these guys, but that was so inappropriate. And he apologized, but I think too little, too late, man. That's like Will Smith going up and smacking Chris Rock, right? It's that level of like, dude, that was completely unnecessary, right, and completely unprofessional. And
I was mad, maybe not, that's not the right word. I was disappointed when Martin came into his pit, because he was doing a very sarcastic clap. And it was not a clap. My interpretation of it, and we'll never know exactly what his thought was, my interpretation was he was sort of mocking Aprilia, the brand.
Yeah.
Right? Because he just got knocked down by Aprilia's junior team. Right? And he's already mentally in a championship battle. And getting knocked out by Fernandez was, and he's kind of like being kind of a little child about it. And he comes in, and then they're trying to calm him down. And I think somebody put their hand on his shoulder, and he shoved him and kind of blew up. That was really disappointing, right? I don't want to see that from any of these guys. However, I can understand how invested these guys are in this.
We want them to be invested at that level.
Yeah,
right?
and their emotions they get carried away with how they feel about something, for better or worse, because we sort of want them to be this emotional, push beyond the limits person on track, but then we want them to shut that off as soon as they're in the pits and be a perfect gentleman, right? And some can balance that really, really well, but others don't. Right. And I've never thought that Martin was the most emotionally mature rider on the grid, right?
I think he's shown that over the last couple of years. We've been talking, mistakes he makes or decisions he makes that are clearly made under an emotional guys. And I'm critical of it, but I'm also, I feel like I fall prey to it. I react emotionally far more often than I would like to. And I'm always deeply, deeply ashamed when it happens.
So
right?
let's talk about the brain here for a second,
because it's fascinating, right?
So,
like human physiology and like understanding how it all works. I went through a little bit of therapy before we get too deep into this, and not like saying therapy sounds like a bad thing. It's really not. Like in this context, it helped me understand why I was getting so emotional, what was triggering it, and as soon as I understood where it was coming from, it gave me the ability to catch it.
Yep,
and oh my gosh, it made my life so much better understanding where and why I was getting so emotional over seemingly kind of stupid things.
Yep.
Right. So anyway.
So I've done a bit of research in this and I think this is interesting. This is not my forte exactly. So if I butcher a bit of the language here, if you're a neuroscientist, I'm sorry.
No. If you're a neuroscientist, psychiatrist, or psychologist,
help us.
Chime in
and let us know what we missed. But the way I've always thought about this, or the way I've learned to think about this, is your brain has 3 layers to it. There's your reptilian brain that's doing most of your functions.
That's when I go to the brakes.
Well, it's like your responses to certain things. It's breathing. It's basic stuff. Then you have your limbic level. Limbic is emotions. It's feelings. It's relationships. That's kind of that level, and that is the level where someone cut me off in traffic and I'm mad now. That's your limbic talking.
Right.
Right. Your cortex, which is the one that we have, a very highly developed cortex. Most animals hardly have a cortex, if one at all, and it's usually much more simplified than ours. That's the part of your brain that can think about what happens next week or next month or next year. It's the part that can actually plan and look long term and think things through and make a logical decision, right? Your limbic is not logical. It's just, you punched me, I'm going to punch you back.
Right. It's the chemical reaction, right?
Yeah.
Like everything works on chemicals. We're a ball.
Yeah.
It'd be no different than pouring like ammonia with vinegar, right? There's going to be a reaction.
And that's the part that it is the last thing to develop in us as a human. So my daughter, who's 4 years old, basically has no cortex yet.
Right.
And she operates on her limbic, which is very obvious, right?
Well, and teenage boys, right? Yeah. Like teenage boys have no ability to assess risk because they're still kind of working through that. And that's why like a lot of the like buy a small bike advice is geared towards teenage young men. Right?
Yeah, we don't trust you to make long-term decisions yet.
Right.
But that said, as you mature and you get to a point where you are old enough, we're plenty old, right? Past mid-20s is basically your brain's as developed as it is going to get in this regard. I think it is our responsibility as a human to rely on our cortex as much as possible, right? That is what allows us to do all of these things. Anything that took any kind of forethought or planning or research or development of any kind only happens because we have this level of brain that we can tap into that lets us slow things down. Don't just react.
Take a beat.
Yeah. And think about the actual outcome you're after, right? So a lot of times I end up thinking about, so somebody shows up and does something offensive. They cut you off in traffic. I'm upset just like anybody else. That bothers me just like anybody else. But if I think about my initial reaction, which is I'm going to go catch that guy and I'm going to cut him off, or I'm going to flip him off, or I'm going to blah, 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 whatever.
I'll show him.
Yeah, I'm going to react in some emotional way. The reality is I'm driving right now because I'm trying to get somewhere at a certain time. So why don't I just worry about that instead? Because this guy's going to take the next exit and I'll never see him again. Who cares what just happened? I'm fine. He's fine. I'm just going to keep going now. And that's that cortex part of your brain that's like, what really matters here? What am I actually concerned with? What's important? Let's just think about that instead.
Right. Well, and how many times in your life, and I think we lose sight of this, someone cuts you off and you're like, rah, rah, rah. How many times have you inadvertently cut someone off and you're like, totally. I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't you gunning for him. It was just a lapse of whatever, right?
I want to tell you a funny story. So we were coming back from the racetrack. It was during the past.
Oh, the one we just did last weekend.
Yeah. We did Dave Coach did a advanced rider training that Utah Superbike did. Went great, by the way. We had like almost 30 people.
Yeah, it was awesome. Very well received. Yeah.
But anyway, I drove my van out that day. So I'm driving back on the van. It's a big Sprinter van. It's not the fastest thing in the world.
Right.
But I'm driving on the freeway, and the way the lanes work there's kind of a lane that has to merge over, and then there's a bunch of road construction. And so I'm on the lane that's coming through, and there's a bunch of cars merging over. So I moved over to the left lane to give them the right lane to merge into. Well, apparently to the minivan that was coming up behind me, this was an egregious offense. How dare I move into the left lane to let these other cars that are right next to me merge into the lane? So we're going along, and I'm going the limit. I pull over. No. He zigs past me to pass me on the right side, and he flips me off as he drives away. And I have like almost learned, like trained myself. Maybe I just laugh whenever this sort of thing happens. But the funniest thing was I can see through the windows of the minivan, his wife is like punching him in the arm and yelling at him.
Oh, really?
Because she's in the passenger seat and the kids are in the back seat.
Right.
And I was like, I understand that you want to play tough guy and flip me off, but realize you have your whole family in the car.
That's a total like neglecting or ignoring the gravity of the situation, right?
Yeah. I could have been a complete psycho about that, right? And anyway,
but on a motorcycle, let's talk about put that context as you're riding on the street or whatever, somebody cuts you off. I think there's a whole section of YouTube content creators that all they do is they go put themselves in sketchy traffic situations just so they can film these kind of conflicts. But you forget how vulnerable we are, right? I really want to do a video on this, but riding on the street on a motorcycle, it's not that I ride like I'm invisible. I ride to be invisible. Now, this is going to upset some people, but the track kind of taught me this, that if you ignore me and I just plan for you, I can slip in and out of your world without ever. I'm looking for you. I'm paying attention to you. I would rather you not be polite. I'd rather you not even really know that I'm here because I'm expecting you to not know that I'm here. And I think it reduces a ton of conflict. It's I don't do the high vis thing. I just try to slip in and out of people's consciousness as quickly and quietly as possible. That if I was never there, it would make no difference.
That's a great point. I think about when I'm driving on the road in a car even, I notice I am hyper aware of everybody around me, probably almost not to a fault because it's obviously working okay, but probably to a point where it's annoying to other people in my car with me. If you're a motorcyclist and you've done this for a long enough time, you know that subconsciously, I don't like cars that have really dark tinted windows because I can't see what the driver's doing.
Sure.
Right?
But I don't like lawnmower trucks with crap in the back of the truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But if they've got not so dark tinted windows, I can look at the driver's head, and if I can see he's looking over like that, I know he wants to merge lanes. So I'm going to give him a little space and plan around it. I know I will watch the front tires because they'll tell you what's happening before the car actually moves, right? There's all these little things that you consciously pick up, but to your point, you could try to just be obnoxious in a blinking light and they'll see you, but I'd rather them not adjust what they're going to do because of me because I'll just get around them anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, again, the track taught me that we talk about on the track about how if nobody's talking about you at the end of the day, that's a good thing.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Right. Or the other one too, and it sounds like an insult when you do track days, but if somebody comes up to you and says, you were easy to pass, that's high praise. Yeah. That means you're riding in a very predictable, controlled manner. I knew what you were going to do, so I was very comfortable riding around you on the track.
Yeah.
And it's when it comes to traffic, someone said this to me years ago, and I wish they would make billboards about it, that traffic is a team sport. It's not me versus you. You're not stuck in traffic. You are traffic. We are traffic, right? And the better we can work together, we all get home sooner, right? So you don't get livid that the motorcycle's splitting lanes. Couldn't care less if a motorcycle's splitting lane. That's just one less car.
Yeah.
And so, but again, you have to you have to be pragmatic, and it takes effort to step out of that emotional state and be pragmatic. Mm-hmm. And I really admire, come on, look at Pedro Acosta is 21 years old, and to be that thoughtful and that analytical and not emotional in that situation, That's impressive. That's far more impressive than Jorge Martin maybe doing really well, losing his mind, and you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather. I think it's why I'm a fan of Pecco Bagnaia, because he also seems to have that very pragmatic, measured approach to everything, and I really admire it. Probably because I wish I was more that way.
You know, going back to GP, you see that there's a few riders who seem to be able to operate their brains on such a high frequency that they're the way that they're moving through things, that they're kind of keeping track of all these things, but then they're also hyper aware of all of these other things that aren't the pressing immediate thing.
I think Marc Marquez is the best example of that.
Mark's a great example. I think Rossi's a great example.
I think to a certain extent, Bezzecchi seems to be really good at that.
Yeah, there's a handful of these guys who seem to be able to be hyper aware of how to ride the bike and be fast on the bike, but then also hyper aware of the perception and how to manage the perception of them on the bike. Right. And at that level, at their level in MotoGP, that's a task and a skill all on its own.
Yeah.
And I think Pedro's one of them. He absolutely knows how to endear himself. Right. He's made a few childish things.
But again, he's 20.
I'm not going to totally fault him.
Yeah. Right. Like,
but yeah, some of these things, I think he's very aware of the perception of what he says and how it gets interpreted. So I don't think we would ever see him barge into any garage and throw a total tantrum the way we saw Martin do it.
Now, we did see Ai Ogura went to Pedro's garage to apologize as soon as he got off the bike. And the team leads were like, maybe not now. They kind of turned him around. And I think like maybe it just took him, and that's okay too. To like, I'm upset. I don't want to talk right now. Give me a minute to collect myself.
Well, and I also don't totally, I do not think I did this on purpose.
Agreed.
I don't agree with the riders going immediately to the other garage. Rossi, do you remember when Rossi was on Ducati?
Rossi and Stoner did this. It was famous, right?
And he just walked over. Rossi, in my mind, Rossi did it as a stunt.
Yeah.
Because he knew the cameras would follow him. And he wanted the cameras to see him go be the gracious person who's apologizing.
And Stoner completely turned it around on him.
Yeah, and
like in a really elegant way.
Because I think Stoner saw it for what it was, because he saw Rossi walk in with his helmet still on, with 9 cameras following him. And he's like, we're not doing this. Get out of here.
Well, and he just turned around and he goes, yeah, your ambition outweighed your talent, and just turned around and I'm like, ooh,
but
sick burn.
But there was that part. But if you wanted to be sincere and apologize for your behavior, you do it when the cameras aren't around. Right. And it would be man to man, and we would just talk through it.
I mean, Ai Ogura is not like a big enough of a character that I don't think he did it as the stunt.
But that's what I'm saying is I don't think he was even aware of the cameras.
I was like, I want to, because like the announcers were saying, we don't know these guys. We only know what the announcers tell us about him. And they're like, he is a very kind, thoughtful guy. And so like, if it was me, like, let's say it's you and I caused you to fall, first thing, like, I'm coming like, dude, are you okay? Yeah. I am so sorry. This happened. I didn't think that was going to happen. Ultimately, it's my fault though. I'm sorry. You know?
And that's what I think I was doing. I think my guess is as soon as they touched, I don't think I thought of a single thing on that whole cool down lap, right? They showed him on the cool down lap. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't excited. Right. He was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he was doing it as a stunt, but I get why they weren't really ready to have him come right into the pit.
And I think that's okay. It's okay to like take a beat and like calm down. This was like an intense, so intense, right? Like,
yeah, this was a kind of a stressful race. For one, it went on forever because of all the red flags.
Yeah, like I went to watch it first thing in the morning, and it was after the race started, and usually I just go to live, and you can scroll back 2 hours.
Yes. Yep.
And it didn't go to the beginning. And I'm like, oh, crap. All right, well, I don't want a spoiler. I'm going to wait till it posts. And so, you know, we watched a couple, like some TV and whatever. It hasn't posted yet. Holy crap, what's going on? Right?
It's like a 3-hour race.
And I'm working like the next video has a deadline. I have to meet on the next video. I was planning on working on that all morning.
Yep.
And then the race is like 3 hours long. And I'm like, well, there goes today. You know, I'll be working late the next couple nights to kind of get things. But it was, you know, it's like the best and worst of MotoGP all in one race, right? We think a lot about the the big races where these things happen, right? Like Silverstone. We have these big violent crashes, and a lot of times these big events like this sometimes change the sport. Spielberg, they changed the track after that big crash with where was it Maverick Vinales went tumbling and almost took out Rossi's bike, like it bounced past him within like millimeters.
Morbidelli maybe. Now I feel like I should remember this a little better,
but in any case, like they changed the track configuration before the next round.
Yep.
This track from they're going almost 300K before they get to that little crappy chicane. I hate chicanes to begin with, but to go 300 kilometers an hour into a chicane with 20 motorcycles, how do you plan or anticipate a left-right chicane with that many people packed into there, right?
What I don't understand is this is a known thing about Catalunya, right? There's a couple of other issues with Catalunya too, but this particular is a known thing. Most of our worst turn one incidents happen at Catalunya. It's really common. There's no rule anywhere that says that the grid and your finish line have to use the same line.
Right. You could just push them like the start line's later.
Move the grid, down the front straight so it's closer to turn one if you want. If you want to slow these bikes down on that entrance.
And then the back straight, like Catalunya is a fantastic setup, right? But the back straight is like there's not a lot of runoff room, right? So we've seen big crashes down that back straight before where bikes go clattering into that wall. And,
Anyway,
how do you fix it? Well, I guess we're going to smaller motorcycles next year, but I read an interview from Alex Espargaro. Aleix, the younger brother.
Aleix is the older one. Paul's the younger one.
Oh, maybe I can't remember. It was one of the Espargaros. And he's been testing the smaller one. He goes, it's just as fast.
Yeah.
But it's 10 kilos lighter. It's so much fun to ride. The speeds aren't that different, but with the less technology and the less weight, he goes, it's a fun motorcycle. But if the bikes are going the same speed, we're going to be dealing with some of these same problems.
I don't think they'll be. So I do think the bikes will actually be a little safer next year for a couple of reasons. One, there's less aero to deal with, right?
Right.
But there's no more ride height device.
Yep.
I
so
think
not going to be little drag bikes out of every corner.
I think that alone is going to make these things way more stable and predictable for the riders. Plus, I think the Michelin tires can obviously go extremely fast. I think they've broken every track record.
You mean the Pirellis?
No.
Oh, the Michelins. Oh, so the Pirelli.
They're a fast tire for sure, but they need to be worked and used in a really specific way.
So everyone's riding the same way to get the tire to work.
Yeah, and I think when my impression anyway watching GP is when sudden things happen, it's very easy to overwhelm the tire with like sudden inputs. Whereas the Pirellis, my experience is they're a much more forgiving tire.
I've never ridden a more forgiving tire.
Right?
I think that's why they're so wildly popular.
And I recognize that Dave and I are not riding whatever Pirelli is going to build for MotoGP. I get that those are different, but the philosophy of the tire isn't going to be different. It's still going to be a Pirelli.
From a very well-respected person, I was told that tires are like a language. And once you speak that language, right, you're going to understand how to work with that tire. Now, I'll tell you, first off, I do not speak Michelin. Like I've struggled with them for years and years and years. Whenever a bike has Michelin on it, I'm usually like, but Bridgestone Pirelli, I'm there, like I'm very, very happy. Dunlops are hit or miss for me. And this isn't like a good tire, bad tire. This is just me understanding what the tire is telling me.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. There's definitely something to that, but I think in general next year we're going to see a much more forgiving bike. And even Bulaga, Nicola Bulaga from World Superbike.
Right.
He's been testing, I think he was just this like last week testing, or maybe the week prior, but whatever, the Ducati 850. And he said, it feels much more like a superbike.
Oh, cool.
And the bike is still a GP bike, obviously, but the tires are super, like they're Pirellis. It's, in his mind, superbikes feel like Pirellis.
At the end of the day, it's kind of almost the most important part of the whole equation. The thing that's keeping you on the ground.
Speaking of MotoGP and Superbike, I want to talk just a little bit about a technology thing.
Okay, I love talking technology. Let's do it.
I watched a fantastic video. I sent you the link.
You sent it to me. I just got back into town. I haven't been able to watch it. We'll talk a little bit more about my back into town.
So there is a YouTube channel. We might even put a link in the chat.
We'll put a link into it. We can share the love.
You should find this guy. If I am not I enjoy car racing because I enjoy the technology of it, but I don't drive cars, right? Or I don't race cars anyway. This guy it's called 61 Driver, I think. And he is either an ex-Formula One driver or tester, or he's highly involved in racing and has been around it for a long time. He does a phenomenal job of explaining things. That's why I really like listening to him. Anyway, he just did a video that I watched, and he explained Formula One transmissions and the evolution from, back when they had a literal clutch pedal and an H-shift, H pattern.
When gated shift patterns came out.
And he's explaining how just absolutely bananas that is for those guys. They would have blisters on their hands by the end of the race. Wow. It was brutal. And then paddle shifters. Well, anyway, in the video, he ends up going into probably the best explanation I've ever seen of how a seamless transmission works. And I've heard of these things and I've seen snippets of these things. I've never seen anybody share a diagram or be very open about how these things actually work. And it was fascinating. He does a great job. So go watch the video. I'm not going to try to repeat exactly what he said, but the thing that I think is fascinating. So at one point in the video, as they're explaining F1's transmission evolution over the years, they get to a point where they get into sequential shifting with paddle shifters.
Right. What motorcycles basically have sequential shifting.
And they're like, oh, it was earth-shattering. And I was like, bikes have been doing that for ages. That's all we've ever known.
Better. I'm sorry. Sequential shifting is better.
And so he showed, and he's explaining, because he's talking to a car audience, and he's explaining the shift
dogs and
how the part rotates, and then it has grooves that move the dogs in sequence, right?
Yeah.
And it's this, oh my God, what an amazing thing. And I was like, that's how they work. That's all we do. Well,
like I'd have a harder time explaining how a non-sequential transmission would work, because like we've been inside so many engines over our lives. They're like, cars are black magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bunch of oil and two fans, and they blow on each other, and like.
Well, so then he goes into, okay, then we got that figured out. Now we still need to figure out the last little bit, which is every gear shift in F1. There's like a 50 millisecond gap when it cut power to move gear from one to the other.
Right.
We deal with that. I would say it's actually far more impactful for a motorcycle than a car.
I would agree, because we have less mass, right? Yeah. So the weight of the car, the weight of the flywheel, and all that stuff isn't going to smooth that out.
Well, and if you're leaned over and you have to shift, you get a little bit of an unsettled, because you unload the rear tire for 50 milliseconds, but it's enough to unload and unsettle the bike. If you've ever had to shift up or shift down is worse, while leaned over through a corner, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's a very disruptive feeling,
unless you're really good. And that's why being really good matters.
Yeah.
Right?
So anyway, they talked about the seamless one. What was interesting about this is, okay, so basically I'm blanking on the name. I want to call it the shift shaft, but basically the one that has the grooves that move the dogs, right?
Okay, right.
On a seamless transmission, there's two of those. One of them has the odd number gears and one has the even number gears.
So it's working similar. It sounds similar already to like a DCT, dual clutch.
But there is no dual clutch, single clutch.
So it's single clutch, but you have even and odd gears are kind of separate. And
and it's basically how the forks are being slid and adjusted. All right. So the premise of this thing is, as you shift, let's say you go from second to third, right? You click the lever. If you have a seamless transmission, it actually will slide the fork into third, to the dog into third to engage it, before second is disengaged. And in fact, second and third will be engaged at the same time for about 0.05 milliseconds.
How do they get away? In the standard, there has to be a clutch.
In a standard transmission, that thing should blow up.
Right.
They can't be engaged at the same time at all without stressing them or shearing off teeth.
There has to be a clutch, right?
There is no clutch.
There's no clutch.
What it is, do you know how a slipper clutch works?
Sure, with the little ramps that roll over the top of each other.
Exactly. So you have a ramp with a ball on it. And basically what happens is when you are accelerating, the engine is driving power through the clutch and into the transmission. It jams up the plates together so you get power transfer. But then as soon as you roll off the throttle and now suddenly the rear wheel is driving the engine, the ball and the ramp push the plates apart and they separate. The dogs that engage the gears behave similarly. Rather than the dogs being square, the dogs
ramped.
are shifted at like they're slashed to angles. So the one side, when I go to engage it, it slides into the thing and engages harder. But while it's doing that, I put the pressure on one side and I take the pressure off of the other tooth.
So it's actually
it pushes it out.
Oh, wow.
So by pushing it into third gear.
I didn't know this was like, it's so elegant.
Oh, it's slick, dude.
It's like the best ideas typically are. Like slipper clutch. I would argue slipper clutch is one of the best technologies to hit motorcycles when they started hitting in the early 2000s. And then when you figured out it's just ramps, like, well, hell, like that's all we needed to do.
So basically by the time when you shift the dog over into third, as it digs into the ramp on third, that basically pushes it off the ramp on second. So literally it's actually the fact that they overlap for that 0.05 milliseconds is actually what allows the shifts to be so fast, because it actually forces second to disengage.
Yeah.
So what's amazing about this though, these seamless gearboxes, they don't cut power. There is no, like the quick shifter does not quick shift. It does not cut spark or cut ignition at all. The clutch doesn't
happening so fast.
The clutch doesn't engage. Nothing happens. So all that happens is the revs drop as it goes from, the neck up the gear.
But like we put this on a motorcycle, you don't get the crackle of a quick shift. I don't know if I'm willing to give up the crackle of a quick shift.
You still get, it still must auto blip on downshifts.
Oh, you still have to, otherwise
because
you got to
spike the revs.
You got to catch it up so it can, it has to go faster.
But on upshifts, it literally just drops revs. That's all it does.
Well, and I would argue like a quick shifter, it was a long time before we got auto blipping down. But when quick shifters first started hitting track bikes, this, we would see measurable improvements in lap times just from the quick shifter. Yeah. It was one of the few pieces of technology you put on. I was like, you're going to get a quicker lap time with that.
Yep.
And it was only upshifts. We didn't really, and even to this day, I still find that I half clutch on my downshifts, even though I don't necessarily need to, because I still find like in a lot of situations, that little extra control, it's not as fast, like not on the track, obviously, not on the track. On the track, I'm like, whatever. But like street riding, I'll still like half clutch my downs.
Well, and I think on street riding, you have to, because you're not always doing the downshift at the revs it wants.
Right. Yes.
Right. Because the way those gearboxes or the electronics are set up now, maybe on the really advanced electronic street bikes, it's adjusting for the RPM.
Change the timing. I think a lot of like the bikes that I ride with them, they're not full on race bikes. They're like the one behind you. It knows the timing is for that kind of middle of the rev range. Yeah. Is how the timing of the quick shifter is programmed.
It knows how the bike's going to be used.
Yeah.
To come back to the transmission for 1 second, we went over a bunch of stuff that's extremely technical
and cool,
and we maybe didn't do the best job of explaining it. But what I want you to go do is if you're like, what on earth are they on about dogs? And
go watch that guy's video.
Go watch that guy's video. Yeah. He does a great job of explaining this, and it'll make way more sense to you. The part that I'm the most excited about from the video, there is nothing inside of this seamless gearbox that looked like unobtainium, right?
Lamps and chamfers.
You think about MotoGP bikes, and other than Ducati, they're all using pneumatic valves.
Right.
So rather than a metal spring.
Is Ducati still using Desmos in their MotoGP bike?
Yep.
Wow.
Rather than a spring returning the valve back closed, it actually has a little pneumatic spring. So it's a little seal with a cup in it, basically, and it uses pneumatic pressure.
Really fast. Don't you have to charge the tank?
But you have to have basically a pressurized canister or maybe a little pump or whatever it is. It's this involved thing. So there's a gap. Like you're never going to have a pneumatic valve street bike because it's just silly.
Well, and we're even giving up on Desmos because
it doesn't matter.
Valve springs are way better than they were in the 50s when Desmos came out. Yeah.
So that's a technology that just probably isn't ever going to quite make the leap to a street bike. But watching how he explained how the seamless gearbox works, I was like, I can't believe the Ducati V4R doesn't come with one. Because it didn't seem that insane to me. Like, I'm sure there's a slightly shorter service interval.
Whatever. You're buying like a V4R. Like that's not what
you're buying the $50,000 race bike. Go
it's like 50. You're getting it for 50. What is it? Last year's model on sale? Like, yeah. Like who cares? Like someone who's buying that thing. Incidentally, I would never buy that thing. That thing is not interesting to me. Like outside of like the novelty of like getting to ride
it's pretty special.
Yeah. Like, but if I was like a rich dude with like some Silicon Valley kind of money, I'd have one in my living room. I'd put it in my garage and brag to my friends about my sick, like,
look at my unobtainium.
Yeah, look at my unobtainium. It's next to my Bugatti, and but like for a rider, like, oh come on, no.
Well, I'm just amazed. Like when I saw how they work, my only thought was, this is doable.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I would love to see that in the more practical versions of it. I mean, come on. The base model RSV4 and the base model Panigale V4, which are the ones I would buy, 20 grand, 25 grand or whatever. Why not aren't in those?
Yeah. That's what I was probably the most excited to, get probably the best understanding of how a seamless gearbox works.
Because I've been asking for years how they work. Like I am lucky to get access to incredible people. And I've asked these incredible people, never got an answer. Not one.
It sounds so simple when I watch the video. So anyway.
And maybe like the Formula One thing, maybe the motorcycle community hasn't really got a grasp on it, or it's a lower priority.
Well, they're all using them in MotoGP.
Yeah. But like... But they're not using them in World Superbike.
No, because no production bike has one.
Right. And like, what a way for BMW to get an edge.
Yeah, it just seems like this thing that, for example, Ducati has a counter-rotating crankshaft.
Right.
I think your bike.
My bike has it. The whole motor spins backwards. Yeah, and I love it. I think it's a great feature.
Yeah.
I really am a fan.
But that truly is MotoGP trickle-down, technology.
And I love Ducati for that kind of thing, right? We're going to take some of our race stuff and give it to you in a touring bike.
It just seems like this could be that next thing that they bring down. So
yeah, it'd be way better than DC. Like I shouldn't be too hard on DCT and E-clutch and things like that. They do serve a purpose, and I think I'm probably kinder to them than most other content creators out there.
Right.
I'm not opposed to them, but for me personally, at this point in my life, I'm not that into DCT. I'm not. Like E-clutch I think is better. Mm-hmm. E-clutch I quite like, but seamless I would quite very much like.
I think for me, these other clutch systems, I don't know that I have a strong opinion on them either way. I more just don't like anything that's adding extra weight.
Yeah, I think
none of them are lighter.
E-clutch is 5 pounds. And you're like...
It's 5 pounds though. Like I buy lithium-ion batteries to save a couple pounds,
it's true.
Right?
It's true. I do the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I still think a lot of it comes down to user requirements. And I think our sport especially gets really caught up in this is objectively or measurably better than that. Mm-hmm. But based on user requirements, is it though?
Yeah.
Like I'm not the biggest fan in the world of tail lever or Hossack front ends because that's not how I ride a motorcycle.
Right.
But if that's how you ride a motorcycle, then it is a huge upgrade for you. Yep.
Yeah. For some people, they're the best answer for what their use case is.
Go to our comment section on any of the videos where I talk about this, and you're going to you'll see hundreds of comments from riders saying, I got arthritis in my hand, or I never really understood shifting. Even on my bicycle, I was always breaking chains. And he goes, this just allowed me to really enjoy this sport.
Yep.
How can you be grumbly about that?
Yeah.
And everybody's doing it now. Like Yamaha has their YAMT and BMW has theirs and KTM has theirs now, which has a really weird name. I can't think of it, but like,
I didn't know KTM had one.
Yeah. They just dropped it on their like Super Duke Tour Adventure Mega or whatever.
Did you see, we're totally off topic here, but did you see that they released I think it's like a track only version of their Super Duke 1390 or whatever it is?
I didn't.
As if the 1390 wasn't absolutely bananas enough. There's a part of me that loves that exists.
This is what I love about KTM is they do this kind of stuff.
And I kind of want one because it's so maniacal over the top.
Well, speaking of,
but I don't know what I would do with it.
Did you see that BMW just announced this crazy hand-hammered looking aluminum 6-cylinder thing?
No,
that looks like the future. It came out, I think, yesterday. I'm a little confused because I've been in Spain all week.
Yeah.
I can't remember when it actually dropped. I don't know it's anything I'd ever want to own, but holy cow, is it cool. And like, I'm so glad that it exists.
I haven't seen this thing. If you guys know what Dave's talking about, put it in the comments.
Everywhere.
Or if Dave is just having a fever dream.
It might be having a fever dream because I haven't slept. I'm still jet lagged like crazy. Yeah.
Should we talk about Spain?
Let's talk about Spain a little bit. Now, we're not going to talk a whole lot about Spain.
Because Dave's not allowed to talk about
I'm not allowed to talk about Spain, but I'm going to give you some homework. Typically, whenever I go to a press event, I am the only person from Utah, right? There's not many of us. But this time, just so as it happens, I don't know if they planned it. I talked to them. They didn't seem to say anything about it. But I landed in France, and I'm sitting there at my gate, and I look up, and sitting across from me, she's one of the bigger motorcycle Instagram channels, and she's also here in Utah. And her channel name is Ai Ogura.
And the text will be on screen for you now because
we're going to be. And she was there, and it's like I met her several years ago. She did her first track day with us, and so I helped her with her first track day. She then was on Norman Reedus. She's ridden motorcycles with Keanu Reeves. She does all sorts of contract work with Ducati. She is an amazing human being. So we did the whole thing together, and my hope is she sounds very agreeable to it, that she's going to be on the podcast next week, and we're going to talk about the new Norton together from two very different perspectives. She was like an awesome travel buddy. We had to navigate like Spanish airports, and we were like this great team figuring it out together. We didn't actually ride together. They put us in two different groups on the Norton.
Well, that's good though. We'll get both.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? Like that we'll get two different perspectives on the whole thing because we didn't really have the same experience. But she was an absolute joy to do this whole thing with. Your homework is to go click like and subscribe on her Instagram, What, because I think she's going to be on next week.
I think you follow on Instagram. I don't think you like and subscribe.
I think I follow her on Instagram.
Well, tell me about Spain and riding in Spain.
Riding in Spain, this is my very first time to Spain. I have never been to Spain. If you're from Utah, we were in Seville, and for whatever reason, it looked an awful lot like Vernal, Utah. So
that will apply. I bet 2 listeners will know what you just said.
Utah. Yeah, this is what this place looked like. But like motorcycle mad culture, we're in this unbelievably charming little city, and the racetrack was like maybe 15 minutes out of town. And so we did half of the day was on local roads, these local amazing Spanish roads. And then half the day, I did road first and track second. Aya did track first and road second. So we kind of overlapped. It was super cool to be in Spain riding this thing. And I can't say anything about what it's like to ride the motorcycle, the new Norton Manx R. But what I am allowed to talk about is you've seen the photos. I saw the photos. I was excited to go do this thing because I'm excited about Norton. I was excited to tell the Norton story. But looking at the photos, I was like, I guess, like, okay, it's gonna be a rich guy's plaything.
Sure,
it's whatever. In real life, that thing is so much prettier than it looks in photos. And the designer was there, and a friend of the channel, Greg Tata, he is the designer for a Piaggio and Aprilia. So I love hanging out with designers, and so the designer for the Norton Manx was there. And big, long conversations about we did this for this reason. They did this whole thing, they call it reductive design. The only fasteners you're going to see on that motorcycle are the fasteners holding the front fender on. You can't find a fastener anywhere on that bike. And so my first question was, do you remember the old Ducati ST2? That was like, everything was like held together with snap clips.
All these teeth
like
interlocked.
It was so bad. It was such a nightmare that even the Ducati factory took a hole saw and drilled holes through the body panels so they could service the motorcycle because that was easier than taking the body panels on and off. Ugh. And the guys at Norton was like, no, we thought of that. You undo this one hidden thing, this comes out, and then everything kind of comes off around it, and it's like seconds to access everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's such a thoughtful bike. They've been working on this particular motorcycle, I think, for 7 years, and they put a lot of thought into it. I'm excited to talk to you about it. So
I'm excited.
The main video will come out later this week, and then we'll talk next week on the podcast about what the thing is like to ride. I will just leave it at, I was wrong about the Norton Manx R, and I'm sorry, and it completely exceeded my expectations. We'll just leave it at that.
It is a very pretty bike. I won't try to like bully you into giving us a bunch of sneak peek stuff about it, but is it... The photos I've seen, it has a very concept bike kind of look to it.
I give it like a cyberpunk kind of look.
Yeah,
it totally looks like, yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear about it.
It's what I love about the design is there's no wings. Mm-hmm. It's not pretending to. And I think it's safe for me to say this, that all these people who've been working on this bike for the last 7 years, they came out and they were like, look, if you look at the history of Norton, Norton was always a very progressive company. They were always leading edge, right? It started in like 1890 something. It was a bicycle company. The guy, Pa Norton, he's like, bicycles are too slow. And so he started buying engines from like France and the Swiss and just putting them into his bicycle frame, and then went and won the very first Isle of Man TT. Right. And so like it's always been. And then the most famous Norton of all time is probably the feather bed, the Norton Manx feather bed. The chassis was so brilliant. They used all this like Reynolds tubing. I think it was something like 200 feet or some ridiculous amount of tubing to make the feather bed frame. They've always been forward thinking. They've always been progressive. And all these retro companies that have tried to crop up over the last 20 years, there was one in Oregon, they've been all over the place. All of them were trying to bring back the Norton Commando as like this retro thing.
Yes.
And that's like the Trident behind you is like this retro thing. The Commando had kind of a similar look. And they're like, no, we're not going to do this time. We want to go back to what Norton's roots are. We want to be progressive. We want to be forward thinking. We want to be more cutting edge. And they did some cool stuff that I'm excited to talk about.
Do you get the impression from this, and so don't give me details about the bike that you can't give me, but do you get the impression that they are trying to build like a Ducati V4 competitor, like a Panigale V4 competitor, or is this more of a street bike first?
I don't think I can talk about that one. I don't think I can answer that question particularly. I think what I can say kind of relative to that is it's this V4 super bike. Mm-hmm. They looked very hard at the S1000R, the RSV4, the Panigale, and they looked at how people were actually riding them and made decisions based on actual rider user data. I don't know if that's enough to answer your question.
It'll have to be.
It'll have to be. I can't go too deep. Like it's
well, we'll get more about it next week. But I'm excited. I think it's cool that you got to go see it. How was the track?
The track was amazing. The track was this really incredible. It was technical and flowy at the same time. And how many times does that come up? Right? Like they struck me. The track was interesting. Typically when we do these things, everybody goes on the track together and they're like, no, you're going to be on the track alone. And you only get 2 15-minute sessions, but you get it all to yourself with an instructor to make sure you're not going to destroy our very nice motorcycle. And
that's so funny to me because all the instructor can do is watch you destroy the motorcycle. They're not going to stop you.
Right. I mean, like, so he led me, like he took me out and he led me for 2 laps and then he watched me and then he went in and he's like, no, you're fine. And, but there were 2 turns. There's like this track that we were on had like 19 different configurations. And so Troy from motorcycle.com was just on this track 2 weeks ago doing like a Suzuki GSXR endurance race to announce the new GSXR.
That's cool.
So he's like, oh, I know this track inside out and backwards. And we get there and it's like different configuration. He's like, oh.
I don't know anything about this track.
Like kind of a thing. But there were 2 turns that like the one, it was this tight little left into a tight little right. It was a little chicane. And you do 2 turns, and there's this tight little left that looks exactly the same that goes into this big, giant, fast, sweeping, long thing around to the... And so the instructor's like, you keep doing the wrong one at the wrong time. And I was like, I know, they look exactly the same kind of a thing. But yeah, it was a super cool track. Really, really cool track. I mean, come on, the Spanish love their motorcycles. They love their motorsport. If I would, I would love to have this track here because it had so many different configurations. Like you're looking at the track map and you're like, wow, you could do this and then you could do this and then this one connects over here. And
that's what most tracks are like that. They're thought through with some different configurations, but I have seen that in a couple of different ones where you're like, oh, you guys thought about every permutation of this thing.
Yeah, they're like, oh, if we did this, we did. I will say this. As an American who mostly rides American tracks, this was the first time on a full-on every turn was right track. In America, all our tracks are just left-hand turns. Yeah. Holy cow, my right leg, right shoulder, everything on my right side was like, ooh, I am tired on the right.
Apparently, I'm not as balanced as I thought I was.
I'm Zoolander. I can only turn left. Like, it's really, we need to get more practice turning right. It was a super cool track. Yeah, and like, we had the whole facility to ourselves, and it was, I don't think they do any big races here. I had never heard of the track before.
When you said the name of, I can't remember what the name is now.
Yeah, I can't remember the track itself,
but I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, and it's like the day garages and the GP garages. Like, I thought ours were nice. These put all of that to shame. Like, it was an incredible facility. But Spain, like, you look at their building materials that they have available to them, everything is like red stone and
yeah, they're kind of nuts about this stuff.
So the whole track, even the airport, you land at the airport and everything's like hand-hewn stone, 2 stories of, it's a pretty place. Like
So Dave says go to Spain.
Go to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was warm. I would rather have been there maybe a little earlier.
Oh, really? Was that hot?
Yeah. My suit, which is hanging over there, you ride on the track.
It's terrible.
I put it in my bag and flew home.
Oof.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's ripe. Yeah, I've been doing every trick I know to try to like bring the smell down because it was warm and hot.
So speaking of your suit, it has an airbag system in it. What was that like doing international travel?
I learned some things. I made some mistakes, and I'm going to share with you. There is a page I'm putting together for the Canyon Chasers website to aid any of you who wish to travel the airlines with an airbag. When you buy an airbag system from Alpinestars, they give you like the data sheet and whatever, and in that comes all their legal regulations that say you're allowed to fly with it.
Yes.
Right? I was like, oh, that'll be good. I have everything I need.
Well, there's like a single page you're supposed to print and like put on.
It's not even a single page. It's 4 pages.
Oof.
I think it's 5 or 6 pages.
Well, but the idea is that you put that on top of the suit in the gear bag, and if they have to inspect it, they see that first. That's the idea.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's like everything, whatever. And so I show up to the airport and I was like, well, I have a special item I need to claim. And I was like, I have this life-saving inflatable device. And they're like, what? And like they freaked out. I almost missed my flight out because they were so panicked about the system, right? The mistake I made, and then when I got to Spain, I talked to all these other guys who fly with this is my first airbag suit. So like, this is a new experience for me. Talked to all the other who had been flying with him for a couple of years. Here's what I learned. The way the law is written, the way TSA has all this documentation, it is basically a self-inflating life preserver. That's what you have to call it. Because as soon as you call it that, they're like, oh, okay. And
off you go.
And off you go. But what you do is you don't even say that, right? So on the website that I'm building, you'll be able to find it if you go to canyonchasers.com and you look under travel. I'll have a special menu right there for traveling with an airbag system. I'll have the Alpinestars data sheet that you print out and you're supposed to carry. I also found all the TSA regulations. I'll put them there that you can print out and put with it that says you are allowed to travel with a a self-inflating life preserver.
Okay.
With 2 extra CO2 cartridges of whatever size.
Yeah.
I have everything printed out, including the regulations. I also found the regulations from each of the 4 major American airlines with their regulations say it's totally acceptable to fly, and just call it what it is. It's a self-inflating life preserver because it will preserve your life, right?
There you go.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's or life vest or whatever. I have the language on the website exactly. Yeah.
So now, but you have to put like I think you're supposed to flip the thing into like a safe mode or something.
What I would recommend is, like in mine, like you have to get in there anyway to disconnect it. And if you're going to disconnect it, take the lithium ion battery out. They were more worried about that than anything else. They really flip. The funny thing is, like in my suit, it has 2 air cartridges. They only took one of them. And okay.
2's too many. He doesn't need both of these.
And I was lucky because I was in Salt Lake and I was like, hey, okay, can my wife come get it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so like Miss Candy Chaser had to drive back to the airport to collect
They took one
of the 2 CO2 cartridges.
I actually oftentimes, this is going to sound really strange. I travel quite a bit for work. I oftentimes brag about how great the Salt Lake International Airport is.
It's usually pretty easy.
Oh, our TSA is security super fast.
Friendly.
Everything's easy. It's clean. It's a great airport. This is pretty funny that they're like, not 2. You get 1.
I don't think they understood what they were looking at. They're like, show us the system. And so they called, right? And like, I'm like looking at the watch. I'm like, I got here 2 hours early. And I'm like, I'm running out of time, guys. And they call and like, this guy said yes, this guy said yes, this guy said yes, this guy said yes. And like, we just don't believe him. We're going to call one more guy. And the one guy's like, I don't know. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. No, unless he takes out one of the CO2 cartridges. And so they took out one of the CO2 cartridges.
And you're safe now.
And it was like, yeah, but now I had a non-functioning airbag, right? Because I don't have the little plug to plug the second port.
Oh,
because they have to both be, because like the Tech-Air 7 has to have the 2 cartridges in.
Both have to be in.
It'll go twice. Yeah. So like if one did go off, it would just blow out the,
Got it. Because it needs like a plug. Okay.
Yeah. Because it needs a plug in the thing. But I think for most people, I imagine most people who are listening to this are probably not traveling with their Speed 1Z, but they may be traveling with like the Tech-Air 5 Plasma, which is I think the bag to get for most people. I think it's because it has the track mode, the dirt mode, whatever. There's only one air cartridge. There's an on-off switch. I don't know if you can pull the battery out of that one, but if you can, like on the Tech-Air 7, it's just one plug. It comes out right away, and I put it in my bag, and then you can, because then when you go to the TSA agent, just don't say anything, and it's like, do you have any of these items? And the items like aerosol cans, lithium-ion batteries, and you're like, then you can say with a straight face, I have none of those things.
Yep.
And if they were to open your bag, right on top is going to be
the sheet of paper.
Yeah, especially if you go to my website and you pick out or you print out all the things, you'll have like, it's hard for us to. But the reality is that all of these regulations say that the TSA agent can make a determination regardless of whatever the legal laws. So I read that as don't be a dick.
Yeah. So also leave them some chocolates.
Yeah,
so
yeah, right. $5 bill.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad you went through the effort and hassle of learning how to fly with an airbag for us.
Yeah, because like, I mean, you know this now. Once you ride with an airbag, the idea of riding without it suddenly starts to feel like riding without a helmet.
Yeah.
You feel so exposed and so vulnerable. Now, I've never deployed an airbag. You have. Mm-hmm. But like, and I was talking to Troy from motorcycle.com, and he's the greatest dude in the world. And he feels the same way. He goes like, he was doing a press event or doing something with like a Triumph Bonneville or something not even very fast. And a car pulled out right in front of him. And he'll tell, I think he has it on motorcycle.com, their YouTube channel. You can watch him tell it. But he hits the front of the car and he's going over the hood of the car. And while he's up in the air, the airbag goes off and he landed and he was totally fine. And because, he is who he is, he sent the airbag back to Alpinestars. And I think it was like the amount of force that went into the airbag was, I can't remember. It was a massive amount of load. And he was like, nothing, no broken collarbone, no nothing, anything, And he's like, I won't ride without an airbag now.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling the same way.
That's funny because that was my experience with my airbag too. One of the crashes I was launched in the air like that. And you're in the air and you're like, my airbag should go off. And then boom, your airbag goes off. You're like, oh, there it is.
Right.
But yeah, you can feel it inflate and then you're just like so happy you have it on for what comes next.
And riding with it, you don't even really know it's there. And I think like our new suits, like they fit better with the airbag in them.
Yeah. I mean, because these garments are now designed for them, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, and like let's go back to MotoGP. Like, do you think, like poor Alex Marquez, pre-airbag,
how much worse that would have been?
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, thank God this technology exists now. Like,
yeah, he broke a vertebrae and a collarbone with an airbag. Think what that would have been like without it.
Without it.
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I was talking with Aya, and she has never worn an airbag. And I was like, you need to get one. You really need to get one.
Yeah.
She's like, I had never even really thought about it. And I was like, once you do, so I think she's out shopping for one.
Well, cool. Well, I hope it works out. I hope we can have hear both of you guys talk about the Manx next week.
Yeah, go subscribe. She's awesome. Yeah. The funny thing is, one more quick little story. When I ran into her in the airport, we're just sitting across, I'm looking at my phone. I look up and I'm like, lol, what? And she looks up and I'm like, So I took a photo of us together on my Instagram. That's guess who I ran into in Paris? It's our top performing Instagram post of the year. Is just me and Aya standing in an airport. I'm
sure because you tagged her and
I totally tagged her. Yeah. And she's gorgeous. She's unbelievably pretty. I mean, she does model work, right? So it's it's the best performing thing. And she was like, well, you posted it at the right time because you want to post Instagram at these hours. She knows everything about Instagram that I probably know about YouTube. And
whatever.
She's like, just do. And it was like, yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of new followers on Instagram thanks to me running into Aya in Paris.
Awesome. Anything else this week?
No, I think that was great.
Cool. Well, hopefully we don't. Hopefully the next GP round goes a bit smoother than this one. And
let's hope.
We'll have a good talk about the Manx next time.
Yeah. A lot to talk about the Manx next time. I got another big, thick data sheet for us to go through.
I'm excited.
It's a little wordy, but we'll get down to the meat and potatoes of it.
I love getting to nerd out about this stuff. So
there's some cool stuff.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
All right. See you next week.